Do the birds come in the background? Is that part of the interview? I would love to have them.
Yeah, that's my setup.
I can speak in Chinese, like ni hao. Wo.
Okay, let's interview with Chinese. How about that?
Wo.
You keep saying ni hao for the next 20 minutes.
Si, si.
Okay.
Let's talk about you working at HydraDB.
What role you think I can work
Product
in?
engineer.
Product engineer.
Yeah, isn't that what you're doing at?
I hope I hit the button.
Yeah.
So, 24 years old, and you already built 2 companies. Let's say if you have $100 million today and you cannot invest on HydraDB, what specific area you will invest on?
Yeah.
What's your next bet?
Space mining.
Space mining.
Asteroid mining.
So I realized that your company previous has raised $65 million.
6.5.
It's 6.5.
I wish 60.
Hi everyone, this is Aubrey. Welcome back to Before Exit. Today I'm joined by Nishkarsh. He's the CEO and founder of HydraDB. And also when most people are building the AI applications, he's building the infrastructure underneath them. He also has very unconventional life that he chose to drop out from the London School of Economics and the company. So Nishkarsh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Like she said, I am the founder of HydraDB. Our goal is to build the database for agents. So we reimagined how databases should work and how they should be working in the year of 2050 when our primary users are agents. Our core philosophical approach is that information in isolation does not work. So if you give your agents one Notion page, they come back with more questions than answers. But if your Notion page is connected to your inbox, emails, messages, what changes is that your agents now have a choice to prune more context, gather more information, and then just digest as much information as possible to get something done. Yeah, happy to be here.
Great. Before we dive into what HydraDB does, I'm more curious about yourself. You told me, how old are you?
24.
Wow. At such a young age, you already built a company, you did fundraising, you built a team of over 20 people. Like, tell me, like, when you decide to drop out from LSE, which is like a lot of people dream to join that school, right? Do you think you can learn faster through building than studying? Or like what other make you make this decision?
Yeah. So I think joining LSE for me was a simple decision because the prime minister, like one of the prime ministers I've always like looked up to of India had gone to LSE. And one day I woke up and I said, I'll become the prime minister of India. So I decided to go to LSE. But when I went to LSE, all of the newest things were happening. So ChatGPT had just come out and people were talking about it. I really did not understand what AI meant back then and what was an LLM, right? What was a transformer? Even though transformers came out, like the architecture came out in 2017, it was a leap of faith, but I could also sense after talking to a lot of smart friends that something was definitely shifting, right? The way people would work would change, the way you would consume information would change. And I think these things happen very rarely. Like in history, if you take a look at it, the first time it happened was during automation, right? When cars came out, factories came out, and it literally changed the way humans work. The second time, according to me, that it happened was when internet came out, right? And you could somehow tell that this ChatGPT thing that most people were excited about would be bigger than the internet altogether, right? So I wanted to learn more about this, and mostly how people do it is, this is a fun fact though, like people think Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg and all of these guys dropped out, but they actually took a gap, and that's what I did. No one actually drops out in their first attempt, and that's like a secret. So I took a gap. I came to SF. I started speaking with a lot of smart people. Somehow I got the opportunity to work with a lot of smart people at Stanford. Some of them were completing their PhDs, and yeah, rest is history. I extended my gap one more time, then one more time, and then eventually I dropped out.
Yeah. So you actually did some calculated risk.
Yeah, it was definitely calculated. And I think no one drops out otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Did you think about maybe I can wait? Yes, it's opportunity maybe compared to the car evolution, compared to internet evolution. So But do you think like timing is very important? That's why you
Yeah.
cannot wait. Yeah.
So I will give you like a very real life example,
Mm.
right? We've been trying to reimagine like how databases would work, and our core focus is graph database, right? 1 year ago, no one was talking about graph databases, right? And now, if you go to social media, if you search for these things, people are all about graphs, right? So 1 year ago, when I was still working on these things, no one seemed to care about it. Right. And now we get a lot of inbound in terms of, oh, we would love to work with you. We would love to replace this stack with you. We got this enterprise to come work with us, and they don't even know what they want to do with graphs, but they're like, we know it's important. Can you help us implement this? So I think so you can be right, but you have to be sometimes right at the right time as well, right?
Yeah.
There have been like multiple geniuses, like genius ideas that were implemented at the wrong time and went nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
At the right time, also the right place. Because
Yes.
at San Francisco is maybe the most competitive ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
And then you choose to come here to accept this competition instead of staying in Europe. Like,
Yeah.
how do you make that decision?
I mean, if you are doing anything in tech and if you are young, you of course move to SF. I would assume that's the same reason that made you move here as well.
A slightly different reason, but yeah, I take
Yeah.
that.
So I think most of the innovation that's happening here is happening here, right? And then I think the way you get to learn about these things and the way you get to be 6 months ahead of the curve is by just like interacting with everyone around you. And it's such a dense network of information that you can learn from, that it just puts you at the frontier, just at the edge of like all the frontier things. And that is a very big competitive advantage in the tech world. If you're like 6 months or maybe 8 months ahead of the curve, you can call yourselves the frontier company of that space.
Got you. So if I research is right, the first company you built is called Fyndr AI, and so that time you mentioned that it's like number one in Product Hub, and also has the path leading to over 1 million users. But what moment you realize even this has the opportunity to become very successful product, but it's time to walk away and build something new?
Yeah. So by the way, Findr broke the internet. Like when we launched, we were the #1 product of the day, week, month, and then we ended up becoming like one of the products of the year on Product Hunt as well. And I think it was we were like I think 4 months away from getting like 1 million users on the platform. But the space was very interesting. So the space we were trying to solve the problem in was this place where there were companies like Glean. There was Rippling coming out with their AI for workplace. The market was big enough, but it was extremely competitive. For us, I think I realized that it would take us a lot more resources to be able to compete with a Glean, to be able to compete with a Rippling. And it took a lot of courage to walk away from that, by the way. Like you see the hockey stick curve, you see users coming in, but to be able to shut that down takes a lot more like guts, to be honest, than anything else. But the decision for me was very simple. Findr was built on top of this technology that we were trying to retrofit. It was like this very old graph database that just wasn't working for us, right? And sooner or later, I realized the bigger opportunity is being able to unlock the next 1 million developers to be able to build their own Findr, compared to just continuously keep working on Findr. So for me, I saw a bigger opportunity and I took the leap of faith.
But is there a trigger moment? Or I know there is a lot of like underneath consideration, but sometimes the decision just happens in a second. I think it's interesting because I think no major decision ever happens in a moment, right? It's always like a bunch of small things compounded. And then of course there's this one trigger that makes you realize, oh, this has been happening with me so far. Now I need to open up my eyes and just look at this realistically. I think for us that moment was when we were about to hit like 1 million and we had achieved certain KPIs, we had achieved certain goals. It was time to think what's next, right? Like we had to take a pause to figure out, oh, where do we go from here now? And that is the moment of realization when we saw that, okay, we've done so much work in making this possible, but now when we think about the future, we really don't know what to do with it, right? And then you realize something's wrong, right? And then you have to take a step back to evaluate, if I could dedicate my life, the next 10 years of my life to something, is this it? Or maybe there's something better that you could work on, a harder problem that went unnoticed.
And for me, it was that moment when I realized that, okay, there is definitely like a more interesting problem to solve, a more interesting challenge to solve compared to what I was doing at the time.
Got you. Okay, so that's how HydraDB come out.
Yeah.
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 And where that idea come from?
So I think traditionally, when I was looking at the space, when I was working at a different company altogether, it was another startup here in the Bay Area. I was trying to use LLMs to build personalized learning agents. The goal was, in a classroom of 30 students, can one educator give me a list of comments about all her students, and then we would use LLMs to build extremely personalized quizzes for just Aubrey or just someone else, right? So two things became extremely clear to me. Even though I was interacting with the earliest like APIs of GPT 3.5, it was an amazing moment. It was one of those holy frig, this works kind of moments,
Yeah.
right? So what happened was I realized that even though I was working with GPT 3.5, it was obviously going to happen that tomorrow we would get GPT 5, then 6, then 7, then 10, then whatever that number looks like, right? So intelligence would become a commodity. Like you wouldn't be worried about you having access to the most powerful models. And it's true to some extent, right? You don't use a Fable to write your emails. You use some other lightweight models to get 80% of the work done.
Yeah.
So it became extremely clear to me that intelligence was going to be commoditized, and the true differentiator for a lot of things would become the context, or the context that you pass to your agents. The way in which you deliver context to your agents is you could use a vector DB, you could use a graph DB, you could use something Postgres table stitched together. I have personally believed in the fact that vector DBs were a solved problem. I was not interested in relational DBs at all. So this middle component that affected me the most was a graph database. And having worked on it for a very long amount of time, I realized what the problems were, and I just decided to go for it.
But you don't have like the background working on database. I feel it's like a very complex topic.
Yeah.
How do you find the people to work together with you or learn this?
Yeah. I think this is the best example I also give is when Bill Gates was starting Microsoft.
Okay.
The first piece of software he wrote was Altair, and he had no idea what he was doing, right? But he figured it out on the fly. And Steve Jobs didn't know he could create Apple. Like this, the name was decided on a car ride to like a homebrew convention, right? I think most of the people who started something great did not know what they were up to. They figured it out on the fly, right? Building a database is one of the hardest challenges, agreed. But that is where like it takes a crew to build a village, right? I knew I wouldn't be able to do it alone. So my next best job was to learn as much as I could by myself, convince the smartest people I knew to work with me and make it happen. So one of the first people I reached out to was actually Jeff Dean from Google. He leads.
He just left recently.
He started his own company now. He was one of the first people I reached out to, and I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. Would you be interested in advising? And he said yes, and then he invested in our company.
Yeah.
And that was a phenomenal moment. And then I kept learning from him, and then I onboarded more people, and then onboarded more people. And then sooner or later, you're learning compounds, right? And then you end up learning so much in a short amount of time that you, like, if you just keep at it, you become the top 1% at that thing.
I believe that the technology or builder skills very important, but sales skills also important. Let's say if you want to sell your graph database to a customer, like who believe that he can just rely on vector DB or relational database, so how will you sell to him?
Yeah. One of the best things I've learned so far is it is always very rare that it's about the technology you've built. It's always, you could have the world's, and this is what I tell my team again and again, is you could have the world's best technology, but if you don't work backwards from your customers' expectations, you are essentially nothing, right? And I have seen so many incredibly smart people just talk about technology like it just solves everything. But that's not true. If I don't understand your pain point, if I'm not able to marry my solution to your pain point, it's a zero-sum game for everyone, right? So the way I approach our customers is I tell them that, are you thinking of agent memory? Are you thinking of building a company brain? Are you thinking of building an agent that can talk to your inbox, that can talk to your personal notes? And if they say yes, then we start asking them more questions. How are you thinking of building this? Oh, you're thinking of using a vector database, but have you realized that vector databases have these problems? And then they would say no, and then we would tell them about the problems, and then they would come to us and tell us, oh, how do we solve it? And at that point in time, the customers have sold themselves on our solution before us having to sell hybrid.
Oh, nice. So basically stand on the customer's feet and think about what problem they're trying to solve and then find a path for them.
Yeah, I mean, it I was speaking to this really successful founder who sold 2 companies for like I think $100 million or something. And the best analogy he gave me was let's say that you are in the mood of eating ice cream, right? But you don't like chocolate flavor, and I gift you chocolate ice cream and I force feed it to you. Potentially, you will hate me sometime down the road, right? I just have to ask you a simple question, which is, Aubrey, do you like ice cream? And if the answer is yes, which flavor? And if I give that flavor to you, you like me, I like you, and then both of us are happy. So think of it as asking for your favorite ice cream flavor.
So 24 years old and you already built 2 companies. So let's say if you have like $100 million today and you cannot invest on HydraDB, what specific area you will invest on? Like what's your next bet?
Space mining.
Space mining.
Asteroid mining. I think there are more resources in our galaxy than we can consume right now, including energy, including precious metals and all of these things, right? So if I could invest my time and energy in one thing outside of HydraDB, that would be figuring out how to mine our space.
That's capital heavy.
Yeah.
And you might need to put everything on it, and you would like to risk that.
Why not? I mean, after selling his company, Elon Musk risked his entire capital on a certain company, right? I have personally believed that I think if you are able to calculate your risk to reward ratio, then most risk that you can take in your early 20s is actually dwarfed in comparison to the reward you might get at the end of the day. I don't have kids. So fortunately, my family is in a place where they can take care of themselves. So I just have me to look after, right? So it makes it easy.
Makes sense. About hiring, I noticed you hire a very famous YouTuber as your dev role. And for other people, they might hire an engineer and who actually can build things. They don't believe creator. They don't believe this hype thing. So why do you think like you hire a YouTuber as your always the hire team?
That is a very good question. So we hired a YouTuber who already has some decent following, but it wasn't at the cost of hiring good engineers. We hired very good engineers and then we hired a DevRel as well. Like I said, I think the ability of a company to diffuse the technology that they have created out into the real world is equally as valuable as the technology itself, right? You can create the world's best car, but if you don't know how to advertise it, how to sell it, no one's asking for it. So good engineering married with good distribution is a great company.
That makes sense. And what about for those engineers, like, it's not cheap. Like some people, they might ask for over $1 million, salary package, but apparently you cannot afford that. How do you convince them to join you?
Sometimes I think when you're talking to really smart people, it's more than the money that you can offer to them. We've offered very great packages to people. We've tried matching packages, but they've been married to the problem that their company is solving, right? So for very smart people, and if you're lucky enough to meet these smart people, I think what you need to sell them on is the vision, the idea, the problem, the challenge you are trying to solve, before you start talking about numbers, packages, and all of those things. Unfortunately, in our case, so for example, recently we went viral in India, and like a couple of local newspapers and everything covered us, and then there was someone who tweeted that, oh, HydraDB looks like it's hiring the Avengers of India as engineers, right? Because the engineers we've hired are really, really good and very well known in India. But the way we convinced them was not by giving them higher packages. In fact, some people took pay cuts to come work with us, right? The reason they came to work with us was because of the fact that they really believed in the mission. And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them to be able to create something that might work out so well that every single person on the planet is affected by that. And that's what you need to convince them of.
Yeah. What is the things Indian founder good at?
That is a good question. So I think economically speaking, India is a country where you don't have a lot of resources, right? Every single person has to fight for, like one person is practically fighting for 1 million jobs. 1 million people are fighting for a single job, right? So you have to be very, very scrappy about things. You have to learn to live with less resources, but produce massively, massively economically beneficial outcomes for not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. So I think one thing I've noticed with specifically Indian founders is how to figure out how to do something with less amount of resources compared to your competitors, but try to produce even those shoes distracted me. But yeah, TLDR is like if you are an Indian founder, you are one thing that you might be good at is being very scrappy, how to produce massive outcomes with very little amount of resources.
Yeah. I think like Chinese founders also facing the similar challenge because that's how I grew up. I also go through the college examination in China and like millions people applying for the same, university. So yeah, I see what you mean.
That makes sense.
Okay. It's nice to talk to you, Nishkarsh. I really love this conversation, and I hope that I will hear more news from you in the future. And good luck with ups. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I wish your channel reaches to 10 million subscribers in the next 2 years.
Okay.
And I'll be rooting for you.
That's a good wish. Thank you.
Thanks so much.